and their carbon reporting is particularly important. Now, in the South African environment, to decarbonize a mining truck, you could go fuel cell, and indeed Anglo American have gone that way. But the risk then is if anything happens to your hydrogen supply, you are stuck. And in an African environment, it's a very robust environment, mining anyway. And now, if you have an unreliable hydrogen supply infrastructure, we believe that a dual fuel to the rest of that. I don't seem to have a little countdown on mine that everyone else did. On hydrogen end use with mobility, there are a few issues of opportunities related to the Hydrogen Platinum Valley initiative. You will see in the bottom left, the Platinum Valley essentially connects Mogalakwena, a very large Anglo-American mine in our northernmost province, which is Limpopo, passing on that main highway, the N1, through Gauteng, Johannesburg, and Pretoria, before taking a left and going down to Durban. The Durban-Johannesburg is our heaviest, most intense freight road. Our rail network has been under pressure for quite some time, so road to rail is in enduring refrain, but we've not managed to get that right. So decarbonizing heavy freight really implies introducing hydrogen into that space. So a mobile refueling station is being developed by HySA Infrastructure. It's a research consortium together with Toyota. There's an on-road mobility project with a number of partners that you see mentioned there, located at Midrand. Midrand is an area located in Johannesburg. And lastly, Project Rainbow really looks to upscale hydrogen production in heavy-duty vehicles, and our Department of Innovation, Science and Technology has joined a consortium of partners. Moving on to hydrogen conversion, we are particularly interested in the usage of hydrogen into longer chain molecules. We are very far from our primary markets where we would like to export our hydrogen to, so therefore it's essentially going to be through ammonia, through methanol, through various other products, particularly Fischer-Tropsch, but that'll come a little bit later in this presentation. So here, this slide really centers around the development of a catalyst for methanol synthesis. The idea being that if you get your catalysis and bench scale right, then upscaling becomes that much more straightforward. Finally, looking at hydrogen in general, where we look at decision support, not technologies. We're very grateful for a good grant partnership agreement with the Federal Republic of Germany, which have invested close to $1 million. And you can see a number of items here. I'm not going to go through them in any great detail, except to point out some. Activity 4.1 being an allocation study. South Africa has got a lot of experience in terms of allocating electrons in terms of our integrated resource planning, but not that much experience when it comes to full sector coupling. And we've had some interaction with Fraunhofer in that space. Activity 4.3 being business cases, looking at where green hydrogen can be used, what's the cost of production. And given that South Africa has 6 climatic regions in one country, you really want to be able to understand what your cost of production is at each of these ports, because your solar and wind resource allocation differs across all of them. Just energy transition under safeguards and safety codes and standards comes in there as well. But then the last one, activity 5, from 1 to 6, really centers on shipping. And shipping is a particularly interesting opportunity for South Africa. We're on a major shipping route as a result of the unfortunate situation in the Red Sea with the Houthis. There's increased traffic going around the African coast. And the decarbonization of shipping had been lagging behind various other sectors for quite a long time. And we were all taken by surprise when the International Maritime Organization upped their ambition from 50% decarbonization by 2050 to full net zero by 2050, with a short-term goal by 2030 of 5% green energy. That's only 6 years away. And IMO regulations are binding not on corporations but on member states. So within 6 short years, South Africa must produce large volumes of green maritime fuel, and we believe that is simultaneously a challenge but an opportunity, and hence all these particular tasks linked to maritime. The first, looking at the concept, really includes strong support to our Department of Transport, attending negotiations at the International Maritime Organization in London, while aviation and sustainable aviation fuel is largely centered around the ideas in the RED2, which are quite restrictive with regard to carbon usage and various carbon sources. Within the IMO, we're still developing those rules. They're still located very strongly in a life cycle assessment model where the embedded carbon is critical, but your pathway to find that is a little bit more open. Finally, 5.5 and 5.6 has to do with possibly one of South Africa's strategic opportunities. We are home to 2 large Fischer-Tropsch facilities. One inland being owned by Sasol, being 160,000 barrels per day facility. But the second, less well known, is state-owned, owned by Petro SA, 45,000 barrel per day facility located at the coast. Now the opportunity there is, with international shipping being conventional wisdom, is that we are looking at green fuels, which are green hydrogen based, but will require new vessels, or at least significantly modified vessels, and new engines or significantly modified vessels, modified engines. So that's ammonia and methanol. The beauty behind Fischer-Tropsch is that, like biofuels, it's a drop-in fuel, which means that you are able to green a voyage, not just green the life of a vessel, which gives you an opportunity for the existing fleet, more than 600,000 vessels, as opposed to the small but growing fleet of new vessels. And we are trying to play a strong role in supporting our Fischer-Tropsch industries in finding a decarbonization pathway, moving away from fossil sources to making synthetic fuels, to making synthetic green fuels. Why is this important? Just to give a quick idea. This map, you've seen very different versions of it, a heat map of combined solar and wind, showing that South Africa compares pretty well with other coastal countries in terms of long-term hydrogen costs. And so part of our value proposition is to provide the environmental screening, which allows us to find land areas which are not going to be environmentally constrained, which then from there allows us then to go and design what a future plant could look like at an existing port. This particular is a case World Bank funded and GIZ enabled for the port of Saldanha Bay, our main iron ore export port. And hopefully I'm in time.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you to all of our speakers. This morning, now that we've heard from a number of esteemed speakers, we actually get started with the real work. And the real work is to try to figure out what a task force might be able to do to be able to bring our 18 or so institutions together, across that. That's not my slide either, as far as I can tell on the main screen.